We're going to start in about a minute or so, just to let some folks, if they have back-to-back meetings, maybe get some water before they're joining us. All right, we're going to get started. I see Heather has started the recording, so you can always go back to this later. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today as we continue ACE's webinar series on accessibility. I'm Tanya Lee Martin, Associate Director for Communications with the University of California Integrated Pest Management Program, and I'm co-chair of the Diversity and Accessibility Learning Community here at ACE. If you're not a current ACE member, please consider joining, especially if you enjoy events like this, and I'll put some information in the chat for you. The Diversity and Accessibility Learning Community wants to thank ACE for funding this webinar series with a professional development grant, and we also want to thank past and future ACE presenters for sharing their expertise and helping all of us learn a bit more about accessibility. And with that, I will introduce today's presenters. I'm excited to introduce Tracy Bryant, Michelle Wood, and Heather Griffith. Tracy Bryant has 27 years of visual design and branding experience in many different settings, including direct mail, marketing, print vendors, and higher education. Currently, Tracy is the Director of Creative Services for the Institute of Food and Agricultural Sciences Communications at the University of Florida. And graphic designer Michelle Wood, also with University of Florida Communications, has worked there for 23 years and has worked in graphic design for 21 years. Again, y'all look so, you look 20. I need to know your lotions and potions recipe. We're looking so great.
It's the humidity in Florida.
Okay, I need to move to the humidity. He specializes in all things related to graphic design, such as overall layout and production design for advertisements, brochures, magazines, and reports. And Heather Griffith is a graphic designer and illustrator at the University of Florida as well. Heather firmly believes in teamwork and workplace community. She volunteers as department captain for the University of Florida Walking Challenge to help create camaraderie amongst her coworkers. So Tracy, Michelle, and Heather today are going to share with us the instructional video that they developed. They said it was a while ago, and so they have some corrections as we're going through it. As it's playing, please put questions into the chat so they can answer them. And we'll have time for questions too at the end. Okay, you three, please go ahead with accessibility InDesign to PDF.
Great, thank you. Thank you for that introduction. Just in case you missed it, I'm Tracy Bryant. I think we were going to introduce ourselves, but you did such a great job. I'm going to skip that part. As was said, this presentation was recorded almost a year ago now, and it assumes that you already have InDesign experience. So if you know how to use it in InDesign, it will make it much easier to kind of follow along. But since the recording, we've learned lots of different things, new techniques and requirements along the way. So at least they're new to us when dealing with ADA, and we're going to note that in the chat as those times come up, and we just wanted to give you a little extra information. We're also going to answer questions in the chat, and then if there's time, we are happy to answer questions after the recording plays. So with that, I'm going to wish me luck sharing. All right, here we go. I lost my chat. I'll find that in a minute.
In this installment, in What is ADA and How We Do It, a webinar for digital publications, we're going to show you how to prepare your documents in InDesign.
It's buffering. I'm going to pause it and see if I can restart it.
Maybe we love seeing you, Tracy, but maybe also turning off your video because I know it sucks up a
Yeah.
lot of bandwidth.
Try this one more time. All right, I'm going to restart this video.
It is important to start working on ADA compliance in InDesign rather than Acrobat because it allows you to do less work in the long run. It gives you more control and allows the finished product to function more accurately. We will run through the basics of setting up your file properly, preparing and styling content, as well as finalizing files and checking them through Adobe Acrobat. Heather is going to get us started.
Hi, I'm Heather Griffith. I'm a graphic designer and illustrator with UF-IFAS Communications. The first thing you should do in InDesign when making an ADA compliant file is to set up your document title. With an open file, do this by going to File, File Info, and then typing in the document title. Setting up the document title is important because when a person with disabilities is trying to find a file, the screen reader will pick up the document title and it will give them more information than just the name of the file. Here's an example. You have a file that is titled Presentation. If you do not include a document title, it will only read Presentation. However, with the document title, you can include more information such as the title of the presentation, the time frame it covers, important. Worded properly so that the screen reader. One more step you will need to take when exporting, but we will go over that a little later. Now we will discuss setting up your parent pages. The first thing you need to know is that all items on your parent pages are artifacted. Using parent pages helps you work faster and more efficiently when creating longer documents and needing to artifact many items. When something is artifacted, it means that it will be invisible to the screen reader and the screen reader will not read it. For example, you will most likely be artifacting any graphic elements you use that are decorative only. Basically, anything that is only there to enhance the visual aesthetic, but not helping to relay the information. These items can all be placed on the parent pages, and you will not have to do any extra work to artifact them. This is also where you will want to place your page numbers. The screen readers have their own page numbering system, so page numbers should be artifacted. Okay, let's move on to discussing how paragraph and character styles help us with ADA compliance. What are paragraph and character styles? As a reminder, a paragraph style is a style that is applied to the whole of the paragraph, while a character style applies to selected words or characters within a paragraph. These styles are especially important to ADA compliance. Every piece of content in your file should have a style designated to it. Each level of content, title, headers, subheaders, body text, lists, etc., will need to have the correct level tag encoded so the screen reader can guide the user through the document properly. These tags are set through the paragraph and the Edit All Export tag panels. Here is how you set them up on an existing style. Right-click on the style you want to change. Choose Edit, Export Tagging, PDF Tag. Choose the appropriate tag. For example, if it is the title of the piece, you will choose H1 for header 1. If it is body copy, you will choose P for paragraph. Let's get into the nitty-gritty with the paragraphs tags H1 through H6 and P. When tagging styles, you will need to make sure you tag each one appropriately. H1 is the highest level of heading and is most often used for the title or main header of the piece. H2 through H6 are most often used for subheadings or lower level headers. The headings should be used in order. For example, H1 should come before H2 and H2 before H3, etc. It is okay if you have an H2 header and then use an H3 and H4 headers in consecutive order below that, and then jump back to an H2 to start a new section. However, you would not use an H2 and then jump to an H4. In this case, you will need to create a different H3 that has the same styling as the H4, but it would be tagged as an H3. Just remember, you can skip up, but you cannot skip down. The P tag is used for all body type styles. For example, your main text will use a P tag, but other items like disclaimers, image captions, table content, etc. will also be P tags. Lists are a little different. There are two kinds of lists, ordered and unordered. Unordered lists are lists using bullets and can be formatted by using the paragraph style box in the Style panel. Choose Bullets in the List Type option in the drop-down menu. Ordered lists are numbered lists that can also be formatted by using the paragraph style box. Choose Numbers in the List Type option instead. Both types of list text should be tagged as automatic because when you export to a PDF, the software will tag these as lists for you. Something to note about the H-only tag. The H tag that does not have a number next to it is not a proper tag and will not be ADA compliant. Do not use this tag. For character tags, these are best done through the Edit All Export Tag panel, which we will go over in a bit. But for now, a little information on the types of character tags. When using a character style, there are three main tag options. The strong tag is used for anything that has a bold character style. Emphasis is used for anything that has an italic or oblique style, and all other character styles should be left as automatic. Let's go over best management practices for naming styles. Naming your styles properly can be extremely helpful while working with ADA compliant files. By including the type of tag that should be assigned to the style in the name, you will have a quick reference to the order the styles should be in. Will help you tagging this in a bit. Moving on to mapping styles. Mapping in InDesign. When you import text from Word, check the Show Import Options button at the bottom. Then click Open. Allowing you to choose how you want the text imported. Select Customize Style Import. Click on Style Mapping. As you can see, you can choose which paragraph and character styles you want for each item. Since we already have the styles named properly in InDesign, it makes the mapping styles process much more efficient. For anything that doesn't match the styles you have set up in the InDesign file, leave that as it is. Now we will discuss threading text. Once you are ready to import your text, you will want to make sure you thread your text boxes as you lay them out. To thread text, drag your text box to the desired size. Then click on the red Output icon button on the bottom right. And now you will see that the cursor is loaded with text again. Click and drag to the desired size and placement. Continue doing this until you have laid out all of the text. Any text that is overset, meaning it won't fit into the text box, will not be read by a screen reader, just like it won't be printed. You can add and remove threaded text in a document by using the in and out ports on the text boxes. The next thing we will show you is the Style Override Highlighter button. The Style Override Highlighter button is a useful tool. It can be found on both your paragraph and your character styles panels. It looks like an A+ in brackets. You only need to click one and it will work for both style types. This button helps you see if you have any overrides on your document. Overrides cause screen readers to not read your file correctly, so you will need to make sure all content is styled using these best practices. It's now time to talk about the Export Tagging panel. When your file is complete and ready to finalize, it is best practice to open your Export Tagging panel and make sure all styles are tagged correctly. You can find this panel in the flyout menu of the Paragraph Styles panel. Then you go through and change any styles that have not been correctly assigned. This is best done after your file is ready to finalize. So if anything gets changed during the design and editing process, this acts as a catch-all. This is also where you tag character styles, since there is no option in the Character Styles panel for assigning tags for PDFs.
Jesus.
Now Michelle is going to discuss alternative text for images, graphs, and graphics.
Hello, I am Michelle Wood, a graphic designer here at UF IFAS Communications. The process of setting up alt text for images, graphs, and graphics is easy. First, what is alt text? It is an alternative visual description of an image read by a screen reader. The purpose is to tell the reader how the image relates to the rest of the content. Why is it important? Because not everyone has access to your document will be able to see it the way that you and I might, and you don't want them to miss out on important information. When writing alt text, you want to describe dominant visual details. Be specific, but only what is relevant to the content provided. Capture the action. What are the people doing, and where are they doing it? If it's important for the reader to know, include gender, race, age, etc. Use normal punctuation so the screen reader will read the information correctly. Photo credits can go in either the alt text or photo caption next to the image. Try not to start your alt text with a photo of or image of too often, as it will become repetitive, as screen readers already classify them as images. Be creative and descriptive. For example, a bird's eye view of a citrus grove. When writing the alt text, you need to be as accurate as you can. If you do not know information about the photo, such as race, age, time, etc., it is better to just generalize. It is best practice to have the author of the project write the alt text, but there are many times where this is not possible. When writing alt text, ask, what is it that I want the reader to know about this image? And what is relevant and accurate? Here is an example of alt text that can be used for the image in this document. A male beekeeper, partially protected with a round veil, gloves, and a smoker, removes a frame from a beehive box that is covered with bees. Photo credit, World Honey Market. I didn't know his age, his race, his name, or his job title, so I left that out. I described what I thought was important to convey the dominant visual details of the photo. What about graphs? Screen readers will classify this as an image, so you will need to identify the graph as a line, bar, pie chart, etc. You can choose to be generic, listing just the ranges of the data points, or you can choose to be descriptive, listing each data point to the graph. We recommend having the author of the publication write alt text for data. The client provided alt text for this graph, which reads, line graph of the value in millions of dollars of honey production from 2010 to 2020, where the value fluctuates with a low of 18.4 in 2011, high of 30.6 in 2014, and a 2020 value of 20.1. It is generic, but still gives the content to what is included. Now I'm going to show you where to place the alt text or artifact in image. You will need the Object Export Options panel. You find this by navigating to the menu bar, select Object, then Object Export Options. Or select the object you want to update, right-click, and choose Object Export Options. To add alt text to this panel, choose the Alt Text tab, Alt Text Source dropdown, and choose Custom. Then type in your alt text and click Done. To artifact images and graphs that are for decorative purposes only, select the tagged PDF tab, use the Apply Tag dropdown, and choose Artifact, and then click Done. To anchor images so they are read along with the text they are related to, click the image you want to anchor. Grab the blue square anchor box and drag it to the area of the text where you want the alt text to be read. For example, I want this image to be read at the end of the article, so I will drag and drop the anchor box to the end of that text. Once anchored, the anchor box will change to an anchor symbol. To anchor an image inline, place the image where you want it. Add text wrap, and then cut. Place your cursor where you want the image, and paste. Next, drag the image to the place where you want it to appear in the text. We are now going to discuss hyperlinks. Hyperlinks need to be visually different than other text in the publication in two ways. 1. Always use some sort of styled underline for hyperlinks to alert the reader that it is a link. 2. Use another additional visual cue to further distinguish it from the text, such as bolding or a change of color. To do this, you create a character style for your hyperlinks and apply it to each instance. You will need alt text for hyperlinks. After you create the hyperlink style, it's time to create the into window, interactive, hyperlinks. Whether the link is a website or an email, the process will be the same. If the links come in from Word when you place your text, select the link in the hyperlink panel, open the flyout menu, and choose Edit Hyperlink. Then go to the Accessibility tab. If the link did not transfer in from Word, you can automatically convert all the links to URLs at one time. In the flyout menu, choose Convert URLs to Hyperlink. Choose to search the whole document, and then apply the correct character style you built. Click Convert All, click OK, and then Done. Then go through the hyperlink panel to add alt text to each link by double-clicking each line and entering the alt text into the Accessibility tab. If the hyperlink is repeated, or if the alt text is all going to be the same for multiple links, you can select all of them in the panel and use the Edit Hyperlink option. Writing alt text for the links is a little different than figures. You should provide the action the user needs to take, like click here and add where the link will take the user. For example, here we have an email contact for J. Smith. The alt text can read as follows. Follow this link to email J. Smith. Or if you have a link to an article, you can add alt text that reads, "Click here to view reference." Now we're going to go on to tables. It is important to style your tables correctly so the reader will navigate the table properly. First, make all your paragraph styles, header, body, and footer. Style them with P tags in the Paragraph Style panel. Then build the table and cell styles, header, body, and rows in the Table and Cell Styles panels. Style the tables as you normally would, using these pre-built styles you made. In order for the screen readers to classify your text as a table, you will need to make sure to convert the header row or rows to an actual header row. To do this, highlight the row or rows, right-click, then select Convert to Header Row. Merging cells can be done in header rows and/or row headers. That's the column that runs down the left side of the table. Do not merge cells within the body of a table, as it will not navigate correctly. Additionally, do not rotate text, as it makes reading the table difficult. Next, we're going to talk about color. Color contrast needs to meet WCAG standards. Using proper color contrast will ensure that low vision readers can distinguish between objects on a page. You can use a color contrast checker to verify that the contrast is sufficient. All of the links I'm about to show you can be found in the PowerPoint presentation. We use the WebAIM Color Contrast Analyzer app installed on our computers. You can find it here. However, you can also use the web version of this checker found here. There are other options to use, but this one seems to be the most user-friendly. When the app opens, you will see this panel. As you recall from earlier in Tracy's introduction, there are two levels of WCAG shown as AA and AAA. They represent the conformance level. AA is mid-range and AAA is highest. The level you will need to conform to will be based off of what your organization is required to meet. I'm going to show you how to use the app. First, select the eyedropper tool in the color area you want to test, either the foreground or the background. Here, I'm going to select the background, blue.
No.
Then I'm going to go back and get the foreground eyedropper and select the orange. The results will show at the bottom. If the combination passes for regular text, which is under 14-point font size, and/or large text, which is 14-point font size and greater, there will be a green check mark next to those levels. If the color combination does not pass, adjustments will need to be made to the colors and/or font sizes until it does. You may even need to choose a totally different color combination in order to pass. From the perspective of a colorblind person, some colors are impossible to distinguish. There is a feature in the WebAIM that allows you to see what colorblind people would see. Additionally, an app named SimDaltism allows you to visualize colors as they are perceived with various types of color blindness, and you can download the app from here. Tracy is going to wrap up by discussing the document reading order and converting it to a PDF.
The last thing you should do before making your file a PDF is check the layer order. To set the reading order in InDesign, use the layer panel to order the items from the bottom, first read, to the top, last read. Anything that is artifacted will not be read, and therefore it doesn't matter where they are in the layer panel. When you are ready to export your file to a PDF, and you have checked to make sure there are no errors in your document, you can take these next steps to finalize the ADA process in Acrobat. When exporting to a PDF, it is best practice to create an interactive PDF. Do this by choosing the Adobe PDF Interactive option in the Export panel. Make sure to adjust the following items after clicking Save. In the General tab, check Create Tagged PDF and use Structure for tab order. In the Advanced tab, make sure the Display Title field is on Document Title and not File Name. Doing this will ensure the document title will be read by the screen reader instead of the file name. Once these items are adjusted, you're ready to export. After you have exported the file to a PDF, you will need to check it using Adobe Acrobat. Check the reading order using the tool on the left toolbar, which is the icon that looks like 4 squares and a Z. This shows what order the screen reader will read. It relies on the layer order, bottom up, that you created in InDesign. If something is out of order here, grab it in the reading order list and move it to the correct location. Next, check the tag tree, which should follow the reading order. This is the icon that looks like a tag. If all the text was threaded in InDesign, there will only be one section of tags. If you have multiple text boxes that are not threaded in InDesign, there will be multiple sections of tags. You can determine if you want one section or multiple sections depending on the piece. If you have a one-page flyer, we recommend having all the text threaded. If you have a long document with multiple chapters or sections, you may want to thread just the text in each section. Images that are not anchored will appear outside the tag tree. If you didn't get the result you expected, fix it in the tag tree by dragging the items to the correct place or fixing it in InDesign and re-exporting. You will see inside the section tag, there are additional tags like H1, H2, and P. These are the tags you chose in the Paragraph Styles panel in InDesign. To finalize the tag tree, click through each tag again to make sure that everything is in order and tagged properly. The accessibility checker is next and will allow you to check to make sure there are no additional errors. To run this, go to the toolbar on the right and choose Accessibility. If this isn't in your toolbar, go to More Tools and add it by clicking the Add button below the icon. Click on Accessibility Check. A pop-up menu will appear. Use the system default settings and hit Start Checking. It will run the report that will pop up in your toolbar on the left. Once you look through everything in the reading order, tag tree, and accessibility checker, if you have any errors or issues, you may be able to correct them in InDesign first, and then re-export them and run the checker again. Sometimes you may have done everything you can in InDesign, and it's something you must fix in Acrobat. This will be on a case-by-case basis. Additionally, if you run into errors that you don't understand, you can right-click on the error in question and choose Explain to learn more about fixing it. The last thing you should do before making your file a PDF is check the layer order. Finally, I will provide some resources for you to refer to on your accessibility journey. Now that you've learned the basics of setting up your InDesign file for ADA compliance, you may want to learn more resources for you to use that have been helpful to us and provide more in-depth information. The Facebook group named PDF Accessibility is a group run by two of the leading trainers in the industry. LinkedIn Learning has many videos on accessibility you can learn from. Searching YouTube can be another good source of information for specific questions. And finally, you can attend conferences that teach accessibility. Our favorites are Adobe Max and Creative Pro Design and Accessibility Summit. Thank you for making accessibility a priority. You can reach us at the emails provided on the slide if you have any questions.
All right, that's it. That was a lot, I know. Does anybody have any questions? Anybody want to unmute and ask?
While people are thinking, you can also put your question in the chat as well if you don't want to unmute. But while people are thinking of their first question, I have a question about Adobe Read Aloud. Does it mimic screen readers that people typically use, or do we actually, if we don't have that service where someone is checking our PDF, do we actually need to learn how to use a screen reader like JAWS or NVDA, or does Adobe Read Aloud do a pretty good job of checking?
So it does not do a good job at all, unfortunately.
Dang it.
Yeah, I know. That's exactly what we said a year ago. Dang it. But NVDA is a free software that you can download and use. It is complicated to learn. It does take some time to learn. But if you don't have somebody that is using it to check after you, it is important because you're not verifying that the screen reader will read it properly. Did anybody have any questions about the notes that I put along the way? At one point I got locked out of the chat, so I'm not sure if I got the timestamps exactly right, but it was close. If you want, so we put the link to this recording up. ACE is also going to put a link to this entire recording up, and you can access it at any time. And if you want to go through it a bunch of times, that's fine. If you have questions while you're watching it, just feel free to shoot me an email. I love talking about this stuff, so I would be happy to try to figure out your problem.
There's a question in chat for you. It's can we review how one can edit cells and rows and tables? Also, what are some useful shortcuts or hacks that have helped you on Adobe InDesign? Okay,
well, let me take that last question, and I'm going to give the other one to Michelle because she is the table guru. So useful shortcuts or hacks, I would definitely say utilizing paragraph and character styles is key to doing this type of work. I've always been an advocate of using paragraph and character styles, and after learning how to do ADA compliance work, I know why. I always thought it was because make it easier for somebody coming behind me on a file to work on the file as well, but it has many uses. So I would say that that would be my most important tip. Michelle, can you talk about the tables?
Yeah, I guess I need a little clarification about what you mean by editing cells and rows. In tables, you can merge cells and stuff like that, but there's a lot of work that needs to be done in Acrobat itself in order to finish making a table ADA compliant. If you merge a cell or a row, you have to set the scope within Acrobat, and that's the only place to do it. You can't do that in InDesign. As far as in InDesign, if you set your tables up with paragraph styles and character styles and make sure that you convert the header row to a header row, the majority of the work is done. There just is a certain amount of minute steps, and in some places more complicated steps that you would have to go through in order to set the scope for the tables, but that has to be done through Acrobat.
And I see this next question, and if that didn't answer your question, you can clarify, but looks like Janet asked, how long does it take you to remediate, say, a 20-page document? So that depends. It's probably what you expected me to say. If you are starting in InDesign and you're doing the ADA work as you're going, it's kind of hard to tell like how long it would take. But if you were to take a PDF file that no ADA work was done at all, it could take quite a bit of time, especially depending on how complicated that file is. If there's lots of images, tables,
no.
charts, and all of that stuff. So it's a hard question to answer. But if you're building your InDesign files correctly from the beginning, then it just kind of gets built into the process of design. Go over how to tag a bulleted list again. So for bullets, a bulleted list and numbered list, in InDesign, you would use the bullet or the numbering feature, and you would just tag them as automatic because when you export the file, InDesign does the work and it switches that to a list tag. There isn't an L tag in InDesign, so that's why you set it to automatic.
Michelle, a minute ago you were muted. I saw that you were talking, but you were muted, so we couldn't hear you.
I was just noting my mistake that I had put in the chat about the P tags in a bulleted list, so I'm glad nobody heard that.
Has anybody here done any ADA work using InDesign already? Yeah, one person. Did you learn anything from our presentation? If you've already been doing it?
Oh yeah, I did learn a lot
Excellent.
today, actually. And I've given some trainings too, and I've learned some stuff today. So thank you so much.
Excellent. I'm curious to know how you learned how to do this work.
So I currently work for NIFA, but I started my career out at LSU Ag Center. And so I think it was like 2017 or 2018, we were going through a big accessibility push, and it was trial and error teaching myself this stuff and having to go through the Adobe Pro, Acrobat Pro, and going to the explain and trying to do all the research on how to fix everything. So yeah, it was a lot of research, but this was very, very helpful. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for letting us know about your experience.
Well,
Anybody
the
else?
Facebook group for sure is a great help with Dax and Chad. And if there's any opportunity or any way that you can possibly attend some of their, classes, that is definitely recommended. They have definitely helped us out numerous times and
Mhm.
saved a whole lot of time as well. And Bevy's class, of course, you get this ginormous book and you don't even, go through maybe a quarter or half of it in the class, but you have it as a reference point and you can find just about anything in that book as well. So if you can scrounge up some money to go to some of those things, it's definitely worth it.
Okay, so there's a question about an InDesign script to import a large amount of PDFs into a document, and they import as figures. Will you have to set alt tags, alternative tags for each individual PDF imported since they come in as figures? Yes. However, if there's content on those PDFs, I would not recommend doing it the way you're doing it. Are the PDFs already ADA compliant? And if so, I'd add those to your final PDF file, just add them as pages in the PDF file if they're already compliant. Does that help? I've never actually, that's not our workflow. So if there's a layout needed, we use InDesign. It just makes it so much easier to do this work. InDesign is so helpful with it.
From my experience importing PDFs into InDesign, it actually, when it goes through the screen reader, it actually reads what's in the PDF if it's like live text, if it's not already like an image itself. Like if
Do
the
you have
text
control? Will you have control over how
that
it
I
reads?
that I don't.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
It's
another.
whatever's in there. It's another layer. Yeah.
Yeah. If it's recognizing the PDF as an image, then yeah, you'll need alt text. However, you don't want to go crazy with your alt text. You need to keep that, pretty simple.
Yeah, descriptive.
Correct. I think we put a link to writing alt text, a blog post that I wrote about writing alt text. Now, I'm not an expert with writing alt text, but there is some good information in there. I believe that's in the chat somewhere.
Yes, I put that in there.
Thanks. Anything else you can stump us with?
I know for me, for sure, it's when I'm actually working on a document that the questions come up and I can't always think of them right now, but I'm so
Yeah.
glad that you have your information available that we can contact you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah, and
Anne
if
has another question, and there's another question in the chat as well.
Okay. Anna, you have a
Hi,
question?
can I
Yeah.
just ask it?
Sure.
Okay. Can you, and I've never really learned this, can you explain why to export the PDF to interactive? Because instead of the other, what it was print, because the options are still the same that you have to choose as far as the hyperlinks and everything else. So can you explain why?
So maybe Heather, you can answer this question because I used to export as a print PDF. And then at one point, Heather, Michelle, and I were talking and they used the interactive and I switched over. Heather, do you remember why?
I do not remember details. I think that they are mostly the same, but I remember something that Chad, we always get their names mixed up and mix them together. Chad said in one of the teachings they were doing that it was better to use the interactive. I don't remember the reason though.
Yeah, I don't either. I've just always used it as interactive because that's what they told us to do. So I don't remember the specifics of that. Oh, do you know the answer to that question, Leah? No? Okay.
Okay. If I could figure it out, but I can always send that answer or send it to you, Anna. So there's another question. How would you deal with a flow chart? And so are you talking about a flow chart, like an infographic kind of thing, or like an organizational chart?
Sort of like, it's like a yes or no, like, do you, you
Yeah.
know, ask these long detailed question, yes or no, go here, long detailed question here, go here.
Yeah.
I eventually told the author, sorry, I can't make it accessible, we're not going to use it. I
Okay.
don't know if that was the right answer.
It's definitely one way to do it.
Like, just make it text, man, just make it text. And he's like, oh, but it's so user friendly. I'm like, no, it's so not.
So not, if you have sight, yeah, it's user friendly. So there is a way to do it using alt text. So it's just, you have to be super clear in your alt text, and this would be a case where the alt text is a little like extra. But Michelle, you got anything to add on that?
I just remember that the one, excuse me, the one flow chart that I did, basically, I had to dumb it down a little bit as far as the flow chart goes in the alt text, and kind of used it as an image instead of, you know, an actual reading ability. That's really the only other flow chart I've ever done. So it's not like you copied and pasted all of the text inside the alt text. You have to, you know.
Yeah, that's not the right way.
The only way I could find was to make the alt text direct to another page where all the information was written out, because it would be like 500 words in the alt text box, and that was just not okay.
There is a short video that Dax Castro has on flowcharts that, like, whenever I have to do one, I will go back and watch. And if you want to just send me like a quick email to remind me to look for it and send it to you, I can do that.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, the flowcharts are, they can be frustrating, but Dax makes it, like, from what I remember, just super easy to figure out how to do. So can PDFs, can they contain animations? Not that I know of, like videos I know are not supported. So the transitions and the page curls, that's like an extra software on top of the PDF. Let me see what your actual question is.
Oh, okay, so looks like Kyle's response was that it was more of the interactive elements, such as putting in videos and stuff. I don't think that has anything to do with ADA.
Okay.
Yeah, those interactive elements that I'm seeing in the chat is nothing to do with ADA compliance. I'm not exactly sure. I've never worked with any interactive stuff inside of a PDF and dealing with ADA at the same time. So that would be something that research would have to be done about.
I would say that if you were trying to work on an interactive PDF, to have a second version that is not interact. I don't know if this is correct, but this is the way I like have a second version where it's like not interactive and ADA compliant. And that way you have two options for people. I didn't think you could embed video in PDFs. Is that a thing now?
I think I did it once, but it makes the PDF really laggy and large file size. Anyway, I guess depending on how your video goes. I think we were messing around with that one time when we were doing PDFs as presentations instead of using PowerPoint.
Okay. All right, thank you, Anna. Anything else?
Any last questions? 5 minutes left.
You're welcome. It's our pleasure.
Yeah, thank you for coming and listening to this. It's super important work, and give you all props for taking the time to learn it.
Well, thank you, Tracy, Michelle, and Heather for being here, and everyone for their questions and paying attention and learning, and hopefully getting accessible PDFs out there. To close out, please fill out our webinar evaluation survey. And we don't have the next webinar set up just yet, I believe, but don't hold me to it. It'll be on either video best practices or maybe both, accessible online courses as well. So look for ACE emails once we have a date in September or October. So thank you again, everyone, and have a good rest of your day. And thanks, Heather, for your help too. Appreciate it.